Sunday's election failed to produce an outright winner, creating uncertainty about control of the government. Renzi excluded the possibility of his party forming a coalition with newly empowered anti-establishment groups. Joining us now let's head to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, where we find Klaus Larres. He is a professor of history and international affairs at the university. Help us navigate through this. What are your major takeaways?
Well, it is, of course, a hung parliament. It has produced a very uncertain position, and it is really wide open what's going to happen with Italian politics. We shouldn't forget that Italian politics has always shown and displayed high drama. So at the moment, everything is up in the air. But in the next few weeks, coalition talks will take place, and perhaps a sensible government can still be found. But at the moment, it looks all very uncertain indeed.
And Klaus, a couple of the big names found themselves in the wreckage. Here's one headline: Silvio Berlusconi's grand failure. Another, why Matteo Renzi's star is fading. Both took it on the chin. Renzi, of course, resigning after. We know who the losers are, but do we know who the new leaders are in Italy?
Well, the new leaders are clearly representing the populist vote, the right-wing vote. There's the Five-Star Movement. There is the League, which used to be called the Northern League. Both have ruled out to form a coalition together, so they are dependent on the other parties, like Berlusconi's also center-right party or the Democratic Party. Renzi has already ruled out that he would enter into parliament, into coalition with any other party that he wants to go, and his party wants to go into opposition. Whether that will be the case, we have to see. We have to remember the German situation, where the Social Democrats also initially said they would go into opposition, and now they are back in a grand coalition. So I think in Italian politics, everything is wide open as well. But it certainly is the case that the center has broken away, that the populist vote has been strengthened. And in my view, that is basically due to four main reasons. That is immigration, that is a very poor economic situation, which is still poor, though improving. That is a certain anti-globalization and anti-establishment vote. And it is also clearly an anti-EU, anti-Europe vote. I think most Italians feel abandoned by the EU. They feel the EU hasn't provided enough support regarding how to deal with the influx of hundreds of thousands of immigrants. And also they have been felt abandoned regarding the economic situation after the financial and economic crisis of 2008 and later. And they feel that policy of austerity, which the EU pursued for a long time, was counterproductive. And therefore they've really joined ranks with the other southern and eastern European states in Europe, like Poland and Hungary, which also feel abandoned and very skeptical towards the EU. That is not a good situation to be in. And I think we need to really turn towards Brussels and ask Brussels to do something, both for Italy and also the other Eastern European states. There is a lot of animosity between Brussels and the populist parties in the countries I just mentioned. But I think if we want to keep Europe together, then the Brussels needs to come up with a solution regarding the huge immigration and migration problem, the refugee problem, and also the still not so good economic situation in countries such as Italy.
And Klaus, in a global sense, what are we witnessing right now? Because again, as you point out, this is populist, anti-establishment vote. We saw that with Brexit. We saw it in the UK there. The Trump election here in the United States, this referendum on the same sort of thing. How far does this wave go?
Well, that is, of course, a big question, but we clearly see a re-emergence of nationalism all over the world, including in the United States, and even in countries such as France and Germany, who now have fairly middle-of-the-road governments. But we shouldn't forget that the right-wing nationalistic vote in these two countries was also very profound and very big. And now in Italy, the center has totally broken away. In France and Germany, the center has held, at least for the time being, until the next election perhaps. But in Italy, it now has broken away. That is a warning sign. And I think there is, of course, a lot of resentment against the past policies, resentment against elites, resentment against globalization. And that needs to be addressed. You know, Brussels shouldn't look away and pretend that everything is fine, that it is just a little bit of a local upheaval. I think there are structural problems at work, and we need to address them. Otherwise, the EU as such could be in danger. And we know that since the Brexit vote of June 2016, that the very existence of the EU is very much in question. And if something like some country like Italy would break away, that certainly would escalate the end of the EU very quickly.
Well,
at the moment, that cannot be foreseen, but still, you never know what will happen in the future.
Klaus, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.